What's up everyone, and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Reptile News. Now I'm filming with the door open today because my wife's gone and I'm at home with the kids. And I don't know about your kids, but mine are little devils. Now we're going to start off today in Massachusetts, more specifically Olmsted Park, where authorities apparently found a fairly large boa, and I'm not sure if the picture associated with this article is a picture of the snake or maybe just one they found on Google, but I think it's a beautiful looking boa. Now the snake was captured and removed. They don't necessarily say what the fate of the snake is, but they do say they are legal to keep in Massachusetts. And why is this news, you may ask? Because it's a topic that continues to come up day after day. And now we're going to move on to Florida, where a kind of weird story. You see, apparently at Forever Florida, which, if you're unaware, is an ecotourism attraction in Florida, apparently an employee was removing plants from a pond where he was attacked by an alligator and had a large chunk removed from his leg. Authorities came and removed 2 alligators, one being 11 foot long and one being 8.5 feet long. They say that the alligators were not a part of the attraction. They don't say exactly what happened to the alligators, but I'm assuming in Florida the alligators were probably dispatched. I know that they're pretty serious about human interactions with alligators there, and I've heard of stories before where people feeding alligators have caused the alligators to be put down because they're getting used to finding food from humans. And now we're going to move on to the age-old debate in the reptile community, and that is poisonous versus venomous. Now, I particularly don't care, and to be honest, I just don't think, unless you're curing cancer or fixing stupid, that it really matters. Usually when people ask me, well, is it dangerous? Is it poisonous? Is it venomous? What is it? I just tell them it'll kill you. You know, dumb it down a little bit. If someone's claiming to be an expert on poisonous snakes, then you can probably correct them. But for the general public, I really don't think it matters. That being said, those of you that do think it matters will be happy to know there was a nice little article written on the differences between poisonous and venomous. So if that's something that interests you and it really bothers you when people talk about venomous food and poisonous snakes, then you might want to check this one out. And now we're going to move on to our douchebags of the day, or potential douchebags of the day. Apparently 2 men in Louisiana had their boats seized and 523 alligator eggs seized. They believed that the alligator eggs were harvested from an illegal area of the refuge. The Louisiana Department of Wildlife eventually sold the eggs for $10,640 or $20 each, and they do say that after the investigation, if it's found that they were obtained legally, then that money will be turned over to the men. Apparently the alligator industry in Louisiana is booming right now, and I have a really hard time not having these guys be our douchebag of the day, even if these eggs were taken legally. I mean, you can't really argue with the law if they were, but I don't agree personally, so you can go ahead and blame me for having my personal bias with this story. I personally don't believe that people should be removing 523 alligator eggs from the wild. Now, usually they say officers like to return evidence to the wild, but when it comes to eggs like this, they can't just be returned to the wild, and they can't be put in a locker as evidence, so they have to be sold. And now we're going to move on to Today in Awesome, where Sir David Attenborough, apparently because of his comprehensive work on plant and wildlife, had a newly discovered lizard from Africa named after him, which is now known as Platysaurus attenboroughi. I'm not sure I pronounced that right, but either way, it's awesome. It's a new species discovered, and I almost passed this story up until I actually went and looked at a picture of this lizard, and it's a pretty awesome looking lizard. And now we're going to move on to Fuck It, because I always told you guys every time this town comes into the news, I'm going to talk about it, and it's also going to be in Today in Awesome. Apparently a monitor had snuck into a home and it was removed, but that's not exactly why it was in this segment. And for you dirty people, it's PHUKET. And for our final story in Today in Awesome, Central Kentucky News wrote an article about how snakes are good, which actually surprised the hell out of me, titled "Killing Snakes Does More Harm Than Good." It's actually what I believe to be a pretty well-written article trying to convince people, apparently in central Kentucky, why they should just leave the snakes alone and let them live instead of killing them. And now we're going to move on to our BAMF of the day, which is a whole bunch of BAMFs this day, and that is Buck's Fire and Rescue. You see, apparently they responded to a call where there was a house fire. I guess a lamp inside a lizard tank had fallen over into the shavings and caught them on fire. Apparently a very bad off-bearded dragon was removed from the heavily damaged cage. It was eventually put in like a kitchen pan of some sort with a lid put on, and they ran some oxygen into it. In about 5 or 10 minutes, the lizard kind of sprung back to life, and that's why Buck's Fire and Rescue is our BAMFs of the day. And that's where I'm going to end today's show. If you'd like to read anything about all these stories, that link's always down in the description below. And we'll see you Friday.